This is Talk on the Wild Side. I'm Rob Smith. For over 20 years, Kent Wildlife Trust has been part of a project teaming up with Kent County Council's highways to protect some of the most valuable bits of natural countryside that we have, and that you will have driven past 100 times without even thinking about. I'm talking about verges, those raggy strips of land alongside our roads, between the curb and the fields beyond, that you almost really forget exist. But nature doesn't forget they exist. And because vehicles are constantly rushing past and they're often too narrow or too inaccessible for most people to do anything with them, they are brilliant, accidental nature reserves. In fact, some of Kent's best bits of ancient woodland, heathland, chalk grassland is actually found alongside our roads, and they also actually act as superhighways, connecting bigger bits of woodland or nature reserves and letting otherwise isolated groups of animals, from badgers to slow worms, to actually meet and mate and survive. But these verges do also have to be managed, otherwise they would soon just revert to scrub, and that would actually crowd out some of our rarest and most valuable plants and flowers like pyramid orchids or green-flowered helleborines, and of course the insects that rely on them like Adonis blue or the brown argus and the marbled white. So, in October of 2024, I went to meet up with a team of volunteers who were working on a verge at Coldred near Dover, where they were clearing away the summer growth to create good conditions for next year, all led by Kent Wildlife Trust's Wilder Road Verge Officer, Bethany Pateman.
This is Coldred Hill near Dover, a lovely area of chalk grassland.
So how big, the verge here, I mean it's quite wide, isn't it? It's what, sort of 30, 40 foot wide in parts going down here. You've got a bank going up the other side as well. What is special or important about these bits of land? Because when you're driving along in the car, it's very easy to just pay them absolutely no attention at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot of sites actually that I've driven past that are now designated as roadside nature reserve because you just don't see what's there.
Mm-hmm.
This one specifically is an area of chalk grassland, which is an internationally important habitat, and it connects up with lots of other areas of chalk grassland in the local area.
And so what's special about chalk grassland? You know, why pay special attention to this bit of verge?
Well, it's very diverse. There's lots of chalk grassland specific species which will support chalk grassland specialist insects, for example. So you get kidney vetch here, which supports the small blue butterfly. And yeah, I mean, generally chalk grass is just great for invertebrates, and you get tons of them here. You get loads of different species of moths and other bits and pieces as well.
And is it because this is a verge, does that make it easier to keep it as a wild area effectively, because people don't tend to walk along it so much because you've got a busy road going next to it, and therefore that effectively the road protects it? Is that kind of how it works?
Well, I suppose it depends on the verge. You do get a lot of, litter, fly tipping, things like that, more antisocial things going on verges that people maybe don't see, but we see the evidence of. It's frustrating because most of the stuff is recyclable as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of empty beer cans, plastic bottles, disposable vapes as well. That's quite a big thing nowadays.
And does that cause direct issues for the wildlife, or is it just unsightly?
I mean, it's unsightly. Direct issues that I've seen would be like rodents getting caught in plastic crisp packets or bottles that fill with water, and they go in them and then they can't get out and then they drown. But I'm sure there's lots of other stuff like that happens that you don't see.
Absolutely. So what are you actually doing here? We've got the guys using the brush cutters. They're a bit further down the hill at the moment, so we can't hear them too much, but there's a lot of raking going on. What are you actually doing? On
a nature reserve, you'd manage it by grazing it, but obviously you can't do that here. So what we do is we cut the grass, we rake it off so that we remove the nutrients from the soil, we make habitat piles, which are good for reptiles and other things to shelter in, improving the quality of the grassland, and eventually scrub will start coming in, and if it was left for years, it would just turn back to woodland. So you really need to manage these sites.
So what kind of species then are you really looking to see on a verge if it is in good health as you want it to be?
Okay, so you've got man orchid. There's a Liddon Hill, which is just down the road. You've got loads of different, so you've got man orchid there, you've got lady orchid as well as common spotted orchids.
What can we actually see on the ground here?
Yeah, so there's wild marjoram, which is a really good plant for butterflies. Greater knatweed as well, which you can see a bit further down. That's also really good for butterflies. There's lots of common rest arrow and other chalk species. Bees love that, it's part of the pea family. And we do get bee orchids here and common spotted orchids as well.
And if you didn't manage these verges, it would revert to scrub, would it? You'd start to lose those orchids, you'd lose some of those bee and butterfly species.
Yeah, the grass would get really dense. If it's not being managed, you get a lot of tussocky grass, and then that would build up and you'd get bits of scrub pop up. Eventually it will go back to woodland, but with the really dense grass, you're not going to get the wildflowers to come up. And orchids, you need kind of good quality grassland.
Because it's one of those sort of slightly counterintuitive things, isn't it, that in order to get some of the rarer species of stuff, you have to actually have poor quality soil. As soon as you start actually getting good organic material, and if you're a gardener, you're thinking, well, you want to get as much organic stuff in as possible, and you're trying to achieve the exact opposite.
That is a common misconception, I think. Like you say, people gardener, they want to put compost down, improve the fertility, but yeah, it is the opposite out in the wild on the nature reserves and the roadside nature reserves, because wildflowers, they thrive in poor quality soil. So chalk grassland, pure chalk is very low quality, and then you get all the small chalk flowers coming up, and they're not being outcompeted by the grasses, the coarse grasses.
So going back historically, because obviously 100, 200 years ago you wouldn't have had brush cutters to do this kind of thing, would this have been managed by sheep? How would you have the natural chalk grassland? I know there's no such thing as natural landscape in the UK particularly, but was it livestock grazing?
I think, yeah, road verges did used to be grazed back in the day, yeah, so they would have been managed that way. Or cut for hay, things like that. Yeah. So
ideally you'd have a couple of sheep or goats along here, but obviously it's the side of a road these days, so you can't do that.
Yeah, no, ideally you would graze these sites, yeah. That would be an ideal situation.
So instead of grazing the sites, you have volunteers. These are your sheep.
They are, yeah. They do a great job as well. They do a great job.
On the day I visited Coldred, there were half a dozen volunteers working hard, and I had a chat with a few of them, Mary Fatty, Maria Himsworth, and first Rob Pilcher, who I interrupted from his task of cutting back the summer's growth.
This is a brush cutter rather than a strimmer. It'll take small bits of wood out, small bits of brush, like you might see lying around.
Because a normal
now.
strimmer, you'd have just like a sort of plastic string on the end. This has got actual blades on it, isn't it? So you could, you've got to be pretty. You're all kitted up. You've got all the steel toe caps on and the high vis.
Gloves, high vis. This thing, leave a gap round the car. So I've seen windows broken when this has hit a stone, and a bit flies off. So,
I mean, it's quite a brutal bit of kit, and this is a sort of, roadside nature reserve. Why does it need attacking with one of these?
Well, you can see what's growing there. It's to make it like downland. Lack of nutrients. So we cut it, rake it, pile all the grass up in little heaps, and less nutrients into the ground, wildflowers, love it.
Are you a naturalist yourself? Do you have sort of like good knowledge of all this kind of stuff, or is it something you've learnt since you've been volunteering?
Most of it's what I've learnt since I've been here. Yeah, and it's only a average knowledge, I would say, not a vast knowledge by any stretch.
So you're retired these days?
Oh yes, I'm retired now, so this gets me out, it gives me something to do.
What were you doing before?
I used to work for British Gas.
Oh, right, okay.
I was the bloke that come round and mended your central heating.
And so why do you do this rather than anything else? Because, now you're retired and you've got the time. There's I guess it's a whole bunch of motorcyclists on a lesson going past at the moment. That's what you can hear in the background. Why do you choose to do this rather than anything else? Because you don't have to do this, do you?
No, I don't have to. I've got an allotment as well. But, I like the people. Now I've met these nice little gang of people get up here. One of my friends was doing it, said, come along, give it a try. Loved it, straight away.
And what is it you get out of it then?
Just satisfaction, enjoyment, satisfaction. At the end of the day, that will look like that. I've done something. You can actually see what you've done. It's good, yeah.
And then I guess you come back, do you sort of drive past here and take a look, see how it's getting on when you've done stuff?
Through the summer, come and monitor it. Come and have a look at all the sites. A little notepad. Take a list of what's here. Flowers, creatures that have been seen, butterflies. Yeah.
You enjoy it?
I enjoy it, yeah. Yeah, I think you would. You want to get stuck in?
It's all to do with meeting people who have got like-minded interests. I love wildflowers, I love insects, in particular bees, so you get to talk to people who have got similar interests and some who know more than you, and you can pass on your knowledge to other people, so that's really good. It keeps you fit, and in the summer I love doing surveys, so yeah, it's good fun.
And you've been doing it for a while?
Yeah, probably over 10 years since I retired.
So how did you get into it then? Why did you start? I
retired from banking, completely different subject, and I did a degree in environmental science.
Oh, okay.
So
this was a retirement kind of a thing you'd always wanted to do,
yes,
kind of thing?
And I got a really good redundancy package, so I decided to, I thought I'm going to get into what is my hobby. So I did a degree, which took me 5 years through Open University. And during it, I decided I need to get out and do something, so I did this. There's a couple of people here who've been doing it a lot longer than us, and we learn things from them, pick things up. And from this, I've now gone on and done other stuff with people in the village where I live. We get together and we look after the village hall and the church hall and manage that for wildlife. So it's a really good way of spreading how to manage your gardens and your verges and that for nature.
So when you were still working in the bank,
yeah,
20 odd years ago, whenever,
yeah,
did you imagine you'd be spending your spare time on a verge?
Well, I've always loved nature, but not on a verge. No, I probably never thought that. Raking up grass and doing that and enjoying it.
And that's the point, isn't it? Because all of you have been doing it for quite a few years now. You're quite a tight little team.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think nearly everyone here has been doing it probably over 5 years. And everybody loves it. Yeah, it's just we all come from different walks of life and have different backgrounds. But when we're together, we just talk about nature and what we're doing, really.
And what's your thing? Are you flowers, insects,
bees.
Birds, bees? Right. Okay.
Yeah. So do stuff with the Bumblebee Conservation Trust as well, where I've learnt lots about bees. I started off just loving wildflowers, but of course when you stare at wildflowers you see insects, and then you start to realise that they're just as interesting. So yeah.
So you recommend it? Anybody else who's retired and thinking about what to do with themselves?
Absolutely. You should never not do anything. And if you can do something that is, I think, giving a bit back as well, no matter what it is, it's quite satisfying. And it also gives you structure in your retirement, I think. Every Tuesday I don't do anything else but come here and do this. That's one day of the week where I do my volunteering.
My name's Mary.
And Mary, you're a bit quieter than where they're strimming over there. What are you actually up to?
I'm just lopping down the bigger scrub bits so that when they come to strim this bit, they don't come to a stop.
Oh, right, okay. And so you're a volunteer. Have you been doing this for a little while?
Probably 10 years or more, I think, yeah.
Okay. So why? Why did you do it?
Well, originally I had a sabbatical from work and I did wildflowers, and then I joined this group as part of that, and then Tuesday happened to be my day off when I was working, so I just carried on doing it.
So how often do you do it? Is this like every week?
She doesn't do the last Tuesday of the month, and then we generally between April and September they do surveys and things, so it's not as intensive, but September through to April is probably all the scrub clearance.
So 2 or 3 times a month you'll be out in a verge somewhere?
Yes, probably, in the winter definitely. In the summer there's other things going on. I don't always make it to the flower survey.
And what do you get out of it?
I think it gets you out in the winter. I think that's it, because the weather could look bad in the morning and then you think, I won't go out today. Whereas today it looked a bit grey, but I came out anyway and it's very nice out. So.
And in terms of the sort of the nature side of stuff, is that your primary motivation for doing this rather than, I don't know, a pottery class? You could do anything, couldn't you?
Yeah, originally, because I'm kind of interested in wildflowers, so that this gives me an in. You can clear it and then you can see the result of your work in the summer when the flowers come out.
And when you see the result of your work in the summer, how does that make you feel?
It makes me very happy. I mean, I didn't make many flower surveys this year, but I went to Old Park Hill and I've never seen so many flowers as there were this year. It was just covered in blues and purples and yellows. It was beautiful. Excellent. It makes me feel happy.
So with the volunteers, and they're quite a tight little team, aren't they? They've all been doing it for years. How valuable to you as somebody who is managing sites like this are these guys?
Oh, so valuable. We wouldn't be able to do it without them, basically. It just wouldn't be possible. So yeah, it's amazing. And they're out here every week with me, and I've got different groups of volunteers, but they all just do it and they love it and we have a great time. But
and they genuinely do love it. I mean, I've had a chat with a few of them, and they all say this is their thing that they do, and it's become a big part of their life. If people want to get involved, how can they do that?
Via the Kent Wildlife Trust website. Actually, yeah, it's all on there. But we're out, rain or shine. So, but yeah, it's good. It's a good bit of exercise. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you feel like you've accomplished something at the end of it. So, yeah. And
how about you? How did you get into doing this?
Well, I was a trainee on a Making a Buzz for the Coast project, and the part of that was in Swale, and it was looking at bee roads. So, Road Verge is managing them for pollinators, because there's quite a lot of rare bumblebees in that area. So I was a trainee on that, and then this job came up, and it's kind of fitted perfectly.
And when you see when you've done a whole bit of work and then you see it in full flower in the summer, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it's amazing. It's so great. I love the spring and the summer and coming out, and we come out and survey the sites and see what's around, and it's just amazing. Yeah, it's so satisfying. It's great. It's really good. Because
and also you get I think slow worms in the banks along here.
Yes, yeah, you get slow worms. We've got some refugia at the top, so you get reptiles on quite a lot of our sites as well. See lizards quite often as well, actually. And we get adder on quite a few of the sites as well, chalk grassland. So
refugia. These are deliberately created places that they go into.
The refugia we have up there is the tins, so that you can, the bit of corrugated tin. So you
no, I don't know. Tell me about what it is. So
it's just a bit of corrugated tin, basically, and you can. It gets warm in the sun, so the reptiles are attracted to it.
And does that sort of sit on bricks, or is it just laid on the grass?
Just laid on the grass, yeah. But I mean, the habitat piles we make, those are really good for reptiles. They like to go and hibernate in them over the winter because they're warm. So making habitat piles like that was always really good for
So the habitat pile, we stood next to one here. This is basically the grass that's been cut back.
Yeah.
And you just leave it in a pile to do its own thing.
Yeah.
And that's good.
That is good. Yeah, we try and move it away so it's not too much of an eyesore, but it's like a big compost heap, basically. So you get loads of stuff using it, invertebrates and obviously reptiles and things like that as well, and small rodents. Yeah.
And this is just one site. How big is this site? Is it like an acre or so of verge along here?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but this is one of our smaller sites. They vary so much, the roadside nature reserves. You get kind of ones that are 100 metre long but 1 metre wide, just like really good bit of chalk grassland or whatever else grassland, and we have like ancient woodland verges as well, so that where the road verge is going through, bit of ancient woodland. We get quite a lot of them in Swale. We've got quite a lot of them.
And of course, the other thing about the fact that verges, they go along the side of roads, as you say, they can be quite long and thin, but they do actually join up different bits of woodland or different habitats, don't they?
Yeah, no, they're really good wildlife corridors or wildlife pockets. Nature reserves are really important and they're great, but you need these kind of other areas of good quality habitat that's linking them up. And a lot of like invertebrate species, for example, they won't move very far. So if you've got good quality habitat in between these other larger areas of good quality habitat, it gives them a chance to move around the landscape, which is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, look, Beth, it's been lovely having a chat with you. Thank you very much. I'll let you carry on with organising your team.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks to Beth Pateman, Rob Pilcher, Maria Himsworth and Mary Farity. It was great to meet you all, and if that's whetted your appetite for volunteering with Kent Wildlife Trust, well, there are all sorts of different roles that you can get involved with. You don't have to wield a brush cutter if you don't want to, and they do give full training and instructions for any volunteering role. Just take a look at Kent Wildlife Trust's website, which is kentwildlifetrust.org, and then search for volunteer, and you'll find there are dozens of things that you could potentially do, from shore searching, collecting data along coastal ecosystems, to livestock checking, to restoring wetlands. It's all there. This has been a Wild Rover Media production for Kent Wildlife Trust. I'm Rob Smith, and until next time, do go wild in the country.